Now, how smart is that? You name your movie foreveryone.net, and then everyone knows where to find it.
And go there.
Brilliant marketing.
Yeah, go there, and you will find out when you can see this documentary directed by Jessica Yu, and the main subject of your documentary is a man named Tim Berners-Lee. And I thought, well, let me just Google Tim Berners-Lee, and it's Sir Tim Berners-Lee.
Oh, wow.
And he is, now I thought Al Gore invented the World Wide Web, but apparently he did, in fact, invent the World Wide Web. Is that correct?
Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah.
That is correct. You can trace it back to one person. And that's part of the reason why I was attracted to making the film, because we all use the web, I don't know how many hours a day, but I had never really thought about where did this come from and why does it exist so freely. So that became kind of the question that motivated the film.
How is it that he, I guess I had some vague thoughts in my head about the web, and that, scientists started using it to communicate with each other somehow, but how did you find out he invented it? How does it?
Okay, so that's a really good point, because the internet existed before the web, but it was so complicated to use. So it was really used for academics or people in government to communicate, and it was really difficult.
The internet.
The internet. The computers couldn't talk to each other. So what Sir Tim did was create kind of the user-friendly version of the web. And the big thing that he did that just blew me away was that he determined that for this to work and for this to really be the communication tool he wanted it to be, it had to be free. So he didn't patent it.
So did he
the
make
protocols.
any money on it?
Well, that was not his motivation at all, and it was a big deal to make it free, and it was a big idea. So what he knew is that people would have to kind of, quote, buy into it and come to it and put things on it and make it their own for it to grow the way it has. But I think that's part of the reason why he's not a household name, and I don't think he would ever want to be.
Again, now the World Wide Web as it exists and for it to be free, does your movie foreveryone.net, does it also examine these ideas of freedom of information? And there are those who say we should put every bit of information we can on the World Wide Web and make it free and accessible to everyone.
Right. That is kind of the other part of the film, is trying to make us appreciate what it is that we have. It actually is a miracle that the web exists as freely and as openly as it does. But of course, anything that's big and powerful, then there's always going to be, whether it's corporations or governments, wanting to control or to own part of the web, or somehow, monetize it, right? Monetize it or control. So I think the message of the film, you could say, is this idea that we need to actually pay attention to how it works, why it works, and to defending it, because it could pretty quickly not be what it is.
Yeah. It can be taken by the bad guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And a lot of it is a little, it's a little insidious. All of a sudden you have, some internet provider. Hey, if you want a little more speed, you can pay a little bit more money. And you're thinking, wait a minute, but why should we have to do that? The traffic should be treated equally. You shouldn't have to pay to, put something up there or to access it.
Yeah.
And that's where the real power of the web comes from everybody being able to participate.
Sir Tim did this when, in 1989? It says here on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing that the history is so recent? Like, we almost can't remember not having it, but it's only been, now 26 years.
Yeah, and how does he feel about where things have gone so far, and what does he want to have happen?
Well, to speak for Tim's foundation, I guess we should say, one thing that's really interesting about him is not only did he create the web, but he has spent a good portion of his life since then defending the open principles of the web. So he has a foundation and a consortium where they're always trying to examine the threats to the web and to try to get people to participate, and not to give a prescription, this is how it needs to go, but make sure that it's a group effort. And that's how the web was started, and that's how it needs to be defended.
Yeah, and there's something in the synopsis of your film that it says he has called for an online Magna Carta. Yeah,
That's
talk
right.
about that just quick.
Yeah. So it's the notion of, is there a way to have a bill of rights for the web where people would say, we actually understand that this is almost like a resource like water that people should have access to, and we will set up these principles to try to defend that. He's not saying what the content of that bill should be, but again, it's something that needs to be crowdsourced. You know?
Jessica, I'm not sure you know it, but people charge us for water.
Actually, I did a film about water, so
Oh, you
know,
did?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Was that last call at the Oasis? Is
That
right?
was. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Just quickly, how did you come upon this project? Did somebody sort of point you in the direction of doing a film about it?
Yes, I was actually approached by Kara Mertis at the Ford Foundation saying, we've got this, this is an important issue. Here's somebody that people don't know about. Please come and meet. And I think when I heard him talk at the Webbies, and I was in.
Just the first time you heard him talk about it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that he's not somebody who wants attention. He's not someone who's asked for a film about himself. But I think seeing the bigger context, that this is a way, again, just to try to raise the alarm a little bit about the encroachment.
It sounds like it's very important to look at this issue and to try and defend the web where we can. And are there suggestions about how we can do that?
Well, if you go to foreveryone.net, there are ways to get involved. I mean, certainly it does go back to supporting legislation that you feel defends the principles. Also, just keeping track of what's going on, whether it's from a consumer level or.
I was going to ask you
level
that
of
because it's a
politics.
big issue here, actually, in Utah about
Yeah.
consumer taxing on purchases made on the internet versus
Free,
free,
no taxation.
That's our legislature's in session right now, and that's one of the things they're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes people think, really, do I just go to a petition and click and everything? I really think that every bit helps. So keeping track of those kind of things that you care about. Otherwise, you don't get a right to complain later when it doesn't go your way.
So if you want to know more about this guy and you want to see the movie, you can go to foreveryone.net. And it will be revealed
Where you can see it.
where you can see it, and maybe you can see it. I think you'll probably be able to see it online if you do that at some point.
Absolutely.
Jessica, thanks for doing it, and thanks for joining us here on the program.
Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure. Cool. Thank you.